Okay, I think we'll get started because it's a quick session. This is the ask. It went from an AMA to AUA, but really AHA, because you're just going to ask him all the stuff because he's new and he doesn't know what he can't talk about.
That's true. That's fair.
We're a very horizontal organization. I am Ben Marks, occasional Magento lecturer, and evidently a dancing connoisseur, I was told last night.
We may have to prove that.
We could tango right here. But this is actually what's really cool is Jason Woosley just happened to be in the neighborhood, and by neighborhood I mean Europe. So he actually he's our fairly new VP of technology, right? So basically all the engineering, anything you don't like about the engineering, it's now his problem. Yeah, like how it's made or how we go about making stuff. So we're here for you guys to literally ask us anything. Didn't prepare a presentation or anything at all. Just really those burning questions. Let us have them, and literally anything.
Yeah, nothing's off limits. I mean, I'm super excited to be up here having a chance to talk to any of you guys. So if there are things we can get into, let's do it.
First question, Telesh, yes.
Just give me a minute.
It's coming.
Since when do you need it?
Okay.
No, go for it.
I'll start. So we're an extension development company.
Yep.
And I have a question about the new marketplace or concern. So that we, it takes some time to develop a new extension for Tinder 2. We have a pretty long QA sessions and code review, and we do have a big work of creating extensions. And it happened to us like 2-3 times already that the extension was already available in the marketplace once we were already ready. Like the same type of extension, connection to a gateway or whatever. And then we need to go through a process of proving why it's unique.
Yep.
For my opinion, it's not a good strategy to go with. There's no competition here. There's no, I can say like our code is better, but how do you know? You know, we did a big process. Like, everyone can put his code there. So it's not really, besides testing of unit test or whatever code, there's no really people who really tested. There's no crowd to decide are better or reviews or because it's not available in the marketplace. Only one. So this is my concern, my question.
Yeah, so I mean, let me kind of jump in on a couple of technical points. And look, Marketplace is brand new to us. We are just now kind of standing up the processes and procedures for how to get things into Marketplace. We've got a great vision for what Marketplace should be, right? It should be the place to go get the highest quality, guaranteed extensions that are compatible, that work, that are very easy to go and pull down. Now, we're experiencing pain in multiple places on Marketplace right now, and you're going to see us get better about it. One of those places in automation and turning over the tools that we use to score extensions to extension developers, so you can score them yourselves. You'll know whether it's going to pass by the time it gets to a submission point. We do have a manual overview process that I expect that we will continue to have as part of our kind of concierge white glove approach to making sure that these extensions are compatible. And so that will always slow it down a little bit, but I think we're getting much better about how we implement that and what our internal processes look like to reduce the amount of time between when you get an extension ready to go and when you're able to get it actually visible in the marketplace. The other place that we're experiencing some pain is in the quantity of extensions that we have available, M2 versus M1 mix of extensions. So that's another area where we're starting to spend some time. And one of the things we've done, we went and hired a great guy named Bob, who's run massive marketplaces before, most recently at Intuit. He's going to be bringing in this concept of the buyer persona and the seller persona within Marketplace, so that we actually have two tracks to go tackle those things differently because they are different audiences. So it doesn't make it that much easier from your perspective to get everything just right, but it does turn some of the tooling back over to you guys where you'll be able to kind of at least run through exactly the same tools that we would run, get those score reports, and then the next step, I think that the future evolution of that is getting more transparent about what's in the process, right? So we can actually show, for people that are members of our solution community or extension builder community, we can show what extensions are in process and when we expect them to come live. So that's another area where I think we can provide some insight.
Yeah, but then we even cannot put our code there because there's a business review process before you can even submit your code, and we submit let's say we created another gateway extension which we think is really great. We tested it with a lot of clients and code review, but someone already did it before us in a lousy way, whatever. We're not able to submit our code even because there's another one available already, which is, I don't think it's.
I mean, we're not trying to make it like a one-to-one, but basically like, okay, this one extension, this one extension that does this one thing, we don't want it to necessarily be just one, but we also don't want it to be 20, right? So social login is an example that I harp on because there's a ton of them for Magento 1, and so I get your concern, and I was fielding an email from a vendor. They actually have a very popular free image rotation extension for Magento 1. They wanted to put it in Magento 2, but there's no real business case for it because there are already some really, really good ones in there. So I get the point, but we also, one of the things that we're trying to avoid is this paralysis that faces merchants and occasionally the developers that work for them when they go to look at an extension category and they just see, there's 50 options there, and which one do I choose? But if I hear if I hear kind of the point that you're making, you think do you think it should be unlimited for anything, or?
I believe in free market, so I think it should be unlimited, but and let the crowd rate
Right.
Our extension's name, we have good reputation companies, so I hope that, once you have a selection, you have a name of the developer company, they will choose the one that has a
Right.
reliable, name, and also you can live in reviews, like Amazon, like eBay, people live in the seller reviews and the product reviews.
Yeah.
And we're missing them. In the case I'm talking about, for the payment gateway, there are only one available in the marketplace.
Yeah.
And the response we got from our review business review team, please show us what the functionality different from this extension. Only one available. Functionality is the same, and it's a payment gateway. It does the same thing, right? It's connecting, but we did a very big process of developing and QA and whatever.
Let's follow up afterwards because I'd love to kind of use those as use cases to talk through. If you and I could follow up after this session, I'd love to get your information and I can check on that and see where they are in the process and maybe get some more insight as to why you're getting that feedback. Because from my understanding, it should not be a one-to-one. We do want to promote competition within the marketplace. So that's something I'll just have to dig into.
And keep in mind, it may be the case. One of the things that we're also figuring out in this the growing pain process. Is the messaging. So it could actually, and it may be the case that you may be asked like, how is this different from this? But it doesn't necessarily mean that it would be excluded just because, like you said, it's payment gateway. It's literally taking information and popping it over here and taking the response. So I would also say that this is a chance. This kind of dialogue, this kind of feedback is critical to us right now because it will help us get it right. We have a lot of goals, and we've had them for a while about where we want to be, but we're still getting there. So there's still wiggle room right now in the system.
But your feedback is absolutely critical, and I can promise you it will get fed back into the system because I want it to be super easy for people who write great extensions to be able to get them into the marketplace. It needs to.
All right. Meg's lesser half.
So what happened to these mythical quarterly releases? This forward to bug fixes.
Yep.
My ears perked up when Anton said earlier you guys are focusing a little bit more on bug fixes right now. But also it seems like those are only available to enterprise clients through like patches from the support folks because you're not releasing very frequently.
Right.
Right, so I can tackle most of that, right? So when I came in, quarterly releases were what we were marching towards, and I can tell you we're not going to be there for some time. And there's good reason for that, right? It's difficult, one, for our market to be able to consume feature releases on a quarterly basis that have potentially breaking changes, alteration to our API, and more importantly, alteration to code signatures that you may be using outside of the API process. So that's something that I think is a great idea, right? And frequent releases are something I do believe in, and I believe in them strongly. We have, and this will be interesting, right? So we haven't really developed a very good release muscle yet. We went for a period of time, I don't know, you guys may have heard, between announcing Magento 2 and actually releasing it, and it's taking us a little bit to actually get a process and procedure that we have confidence in. Now we're doing better, so we've shortened our cycle time for releases. For the actual process to say, okay, we've got the code ready, how do we get it in customers' hand? That's now a much shorter, more well understood and documented process than it's been before. What I would expect is that we will probably land on monthly patches. That's what I'm shooting for right now. I think we're hitting about every 6 weeks on the existing trajectory, and that's using very, very, just the last 2 releases basically. We have, one of the other things that I would like to do is become very transparent about what's going in patches, when we expect patches to come out. Something that we inherited from eBay is kind of a lack of public transparency, right? We can be transparent with partners, we can be transparent with solution developers, but really the larger world at wide, eBay was kind of like, we don't necessarily want them to see our roadmap. I'd prefer to actually have our roadmap published, to have all of our defect tracking.
Back in the day.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a lot
I know, and I think that's something that we lost track of, that we now have to go back and refine that within ourselves, right? I mean, everybody at Magento is an open source, lover by nature. We just have kind of forgotten how to exercise that muscle. So I'm pushing for it. I think we'll get there. You should see vastly more transparency in the engineering organization than you have in the past. I'll try and push that as hard as I can, because the other thing I'd like to do is actually open our defect tracking system so that you can actually go look at, sometimes we put something up on GitHub and we say, oh, it's a Mage 2, 55781. Well, you guys can't see Mage 2 55781, so you have no idea what happens to it after that. There's no secret sauce in that. There's no IP that I need to protect the world from. So I'd love to just open it up and say, this is the team that's working on it. This is when we expect to deliver it. So that will come. The reason we don't do multiple releases, to get back to the heart of it, is one, I don't think we're not, as an organization, agile enough to do it yet. And two, I'm not sure that quarterly is the right cadence, even if we could deliver features at that rate. So, I will take somebody on Twitter is probably freaking out right now. But I would honestly say that we're probably not looking at quarterly releases anytime soon.
Yeah, I mean, I've enjoyed, the last year saying quarterly releases, and then I'd imagine hear Paul Levere say regular releases, and like 15 heads around me just kind of snapped to me. I'm like, shit.
And I'd rather them be stable releases than regular or quarterly or monthly or anything else. So that's going to be job number one, is making sure that we can deliver quality code on a regular basis.
And I'll go ahead and share internally, because I always do it anyway. Like, he's kind of getting ducks and rows lined up. Yeah.
I'm concerned about this opening of the internal bulk tracking system will also open the fact that there may be vulnerabilities that
and I think that's
the process are being worked on.
Yeah, and I think that's a critical point, right? So we actually do treat security issues completely independently of our traditional defect tracking. So there would not be any, there's always the opportunity that someone's going to disclose something you haven't patched up yet. We try to monitor that very closely, but we do keep those security defects separate. We try to release security patches as nothing but security work, so that there's no question about whether you should take the release.
I don't think it'll be. It's great that you're here, because I don't have to conjecture as much. It won't be just a here, just log into our Jira instance, right? It'll be something. There will be kind of a.
And there may be a segment of the community that we just say log into our Jira instance. That could well be. I don't.
I'm talking about 6 years ago. We had that.
We had that expression engine bugs tracking thing. That was.
And it could be that we start off, trying to get to that level of transparency incrementally, right? We might say, here's access to the status of a particular defect if you know the defect number, and then, it could be by component, and then we can start. Jira gives us a lot of tools for reporting and a lot of opportunity for how we share that out. It may not be wholesale. Here's Jira, figure it out yourselves kind of thing. We'd probably like to kind of teach people as we go, but it doesn't change that we are committed to becoming more transparent with that stuff.
Cool. Next question or statement. Yes, Andreas.
Okay, I've got 2 questions. First one's for Jason. Could you try to speak a little bit slower? It's kind of hard to follow you as
My apologies for that. Yes, I will try and speak a little bit slower.
Okay, second question is, when will there be a Magento 1 patch or release supporting not end-of-life PHP version?
Magento 1 patch.
Magento
right.
So I will be very, very honest. I have not looked at the Magento 1 roadmap since I started. So I will have to get back to you on that. I don't have an answer. Yes.
It's tied to 2.1.2, I believe.
Oh, really?
Or 2.2, one of the two.
It's coming in the next month, so I think it's weeks.
It's tied to either 2.1.2 or 2.2, I can't remember, 2 point something with the 2.
We have 2.1,
Peter,
2 coming.
Peter's working on it.
Yeah, if it's 2.2, it could be a little bit longer. If it's 2.1.2, then it's
I
really.
think it's 2.1.2, I'm pretty sure.
I think you're talking
Not
about weeks,
100%
not
sure,
months.
but, yeah.
But again, you can ping me after and I will, I'll look it up.
I mean, and besides, I mean, PHP 5, it's only a little bit end of life. It's only been dead for just a little while.
Still warm, hasn't quite floated yet.
We've done an extensive study, I have a chart.
No signal, that sounds like PHP.
No signal?
Not really can.
That's awesome.
I have one question from Twitter.
Oh, perfect.
Why there is no Magento events in Canada?
That's
That was
David's-
from Damien.
That's David's question, not mine.
And then Vinay said Canada, what about Hawaii?
I'll say for you.
Just take Canada, I'll do Hawaii.
Yeah. Okay, so, I mean, well, there's Meet Magento, it happens in New York, that's basically close to Canada, right?
All Canadians feel that way, sure.
Yeah, sure, totally. You know, there are some PHP events. I mean, I suppose it depends on what kind of events. Are these events for business owners? Are these events for developers? And as far as you know, Magento itself doesn't put on many events. Many, especially developer focused, are events with a developer track. You know, we produce Imagine and 3 Magento Lives, and then we do have some smaller events that we do in collaboration with partners in different places. So there are partners in Canada who could.
So you
Spring that up.
encourage other partners to.
Well, I mean, we would work with them. Yeah, it's not going to be an event that we produce ourselves, just like Meet Magento, not an event that we produce ourselves. They'll literally happen where demand springs up.
Okay.
I mean, hey, I love maple syrup and maple leaves
Yes.
and
With the leaf.
poutine,
There are meetups in both Toronto and Vancouver.
and there are meetups in Toronto and Vancouver.
So since you announced the collaboration with Meet Magento,
Mm-hmm.
what are your plans to get more involved in the community here in Meet Magento organization?
So it's been an interesting thing, like putting. We actually just had a meeting within I think the last month where we got the organizers from the Meet Magento Association, which is again the umbrella organization over all Meet Magentos. Their organizing staff got together with our events team, and we have one of the best events teams in the business, I think. And so we're just kind of mapping together like what does that collaboration look like? So it's still, I'd say, even though it was announced back in June, it's been a learning process for sure. So at the business level, we're working on sponsorship packages where, if you are a typical, like a Magento merchant might have previously, or I'm sorry, a Magento agency might have previously sponsored Imagine and maybe one Magento Live. Well, now we can sell them a package that could cover could involve some of the Meet Magento events as well. So we're integrating at the business level. Logistically, we're trying to make sure we have coverage at all events. I mean, it's really awesome to have someone like Jason here. We have Paul Bover, our head of product, who's going to be at Meet Magento New York. I have some good engineering support for Meet Magento Romania. I mean, I'm just kind of a circus sideshow at all these events now, so it's kind of an expectation. It's really much more about what we can. What else we can bring in terms of enabling content and providing connections with the engineers and the business folk and the occasionally the really sharp people.
Yeah, and I'd say from my perspective, I mean, one, having the announcement makes it legitimizes it for the internal folks, and it makes it very easy for me to send my team members out to these events, because I think it's critically important for frontline engineers to interact with people that are using their software. It's part of the reward process that you go through when you write something awesome, and even if you write something not, but you see somebody who's using it and using it well and is willing to give you feedback, that's really, really important. So. I will be committed to continuing to send, engineering resources, user experience and design resources out to these events to make sure that we're collaborating as actively as we can.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, but really kudos to to all of the different Meet Magento organizers for really helping, being part of and sort of sustaining this ecosystem of events that makes it a tenable option for us to have this. I mean, the other option was to basically force it to go away, and of course we all knew that was not an option, which everyone would lose. So yeah, it's truly a collaboration. That's what it feels like internally, and hopefully that's what the experience is externally.
Yeah, there's nothing that says we are Magento more than these local meetups.
Yeah. Next question.
Are there any awards for reporting security issues? Because I know that there was at some point.
Yeah, well, we still do have a bug bounty for that. I'm not sure how you
Crowd or
get.
something.
Yeah, it's bug crowd.
Crowd, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's a tool we use. I'm not sure how you actually get to the place where you submit it.
If you go to magento.com/security, there should be information on it.
Magento.com/security.
I think it's like hidden on the side, but it's there.
I think it's just emails. You got to email them.
Yeah.
It could be.
Yeah.
No, there's a place where you submit it.
Oh,
Yeah. Damien wants to know when comes Magento 3.
Tell him he's out of the community.
I'm not ready for Magento 3.
It'll be at least 2 weeks. I can say that with high degree of confidence, much higher than quarterly release.
Well, I don't know, we
cadence.
could say quarterly major releases. And miss that about the same way we did quarterly minor releases.
Yeah, boy. Yeah, so there's got to be other questions too. Yeah.
Returning to the marketplace, there had been the information that marketplace was open to Magento 1 extensions in Q2 of 2016, and it hasn't happened yet, obviously. When will it be?
Oh, I don't know what his.
So I don't know what's holding it up. I mean, I do know that we have a backlog of Magento 1 extensions. It is probably that we prioritize Magento 2 extensions over Magento 1 since Connect is still servicing M1. So that's my guess. We haven't announced an end of life for Connect yet. That will come probably at the same time that we get Magento 2 extensions, Magento 1 extensions on the marketplace.
I sit next to Tanya. They're in the process of migrating M1 extensions over, and then it will be shut down.
Yeah, that's. They are. I know that they are reviewing extensions from Connect to get them popped over to Marketplace.
And I know they're also looking at a ratings and review system for Marketplace, so that we will end up with some crowdsourced rankings. I think you were mentioning that earlier.
Good question. Yeah, a lot happening right now, which is good.
It is good.
What about any Magento?
since we're in a marketplace, the entire encrypted extensions drama.
Yep.
Who do I need to talk to start pitching IronCube and Magento to start working together? I just have a really good idea that we could have encrypted extensions, but still have them validated. Because there's a lot of problems with unvalidated encrypted extensions. You could get encrypted code and you could get a code to review, but there's no guarantee that it's the same thing.
So the way you may have more to say, but the way it works is we have to review the unencrypted source, and we do. We're not encrypting it ourselves, which would be the thing.
Yeah.
But if someone did give us one version to review and then released a different version, that someone would find themselves, I'm pretty sure, immediately out of the system.
Yeah, but the thing is, there's a danger that it's really hard to figure that out, right? I mean, how could you reliably be aware that someone's giving you something that's different? Not even just you could easily minorly exfiltrate data from a site.
Sure.
Okay? And you have no guarantees. There's no guarantees in that setup. Okay. I have spoken with the guys at IronCube.
Yep.
We had a long conversation on LinkedIn, and we may have a solution for encrypting and proving the validity of the code that was given to you and the one that's encrypted.
Wait, you use LinkedIn?
Yeah. Well, no, the IonQ guys like use LinkedIn. I messaged him on Twitter and then he started messaging me on LinkedIn. I'm like, okay.
So that's it. No, it's actually that would be I would welcome that, and if it's a simple thing to do and it's low hanging fruit and there's no legal.
It's not simple.
Oh, good.
It's not simple, but but the thing is, like, it's something I want to move along just because I'm finally getting some traction from them on it. So
Me personally, I wish we did not have encrypted extensions in Connect, or in Marketplace, but it seems to be that there was a strong enough business case there for things that we would miss out on.
so who should I get in touch with?
You can send me an email and I'll.
Yeah, you can shoot me an email as well.
Yeah.
I mean,
Probably
it'll probably be Bobbin. Bobbin is the business lead for Marketplace, and then we have an architect on it as well that would probably be very interested in that, Robbie. So I'd say shoot both of us a note and we'll get it to the right place.
Sounds good. Yeah, if we could fix that, I think Marketplace would just be.
Yeah, I would feel much better about that than the threat of, like, someone trying to do something nefarious. But
Especially as it gets bigger and more automated.
we have blacklisted people already, and when they get blacklisted from there, they get blacklisted from everything. They're not allowed to sponsor events. We don't send them cakes at Christmas anymore.
Giant cakes.
Am I the blacklist?
No.
Well, do you get cakes at Christmas time, Tosh?
No, they won't let them go to where you are.
You have to stay still longer.
Yeah, they can't find your yurt in the mountain.
My goats will bring it.
I always wanted to use yurt on stage, and now I have.
For the marketplace again, any consideration about the 30%?
Flat.
Pretty high.
It's standard for, Apple does it.
Yeah, but you can sell it in a different place, like in lower price.
Absolutely. I mean, we do not enjoin anyone from. So if you list an extension with Marketplace, we knew that if we were going to be truly open about it, you can still list it somewhere else.
Because I get a lot of emails. Can I buy it at your site cheaper? So yes, because we sell it at 30% higher in the marketplace.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not a good strategy.
It'll be one that time will tell. I mean, so it's on us to actually build out Marketplace and fill it with the good content and good business process and everything.
Drive traffic to it.
Yeah, and to basically, it's on us. That's pressure we put on ourselves to make that as good as it is, as good as it can be, so that it really. People who try and start, try and deliver extensions externally or try and start their own app stores, it just doesn't work, right? I mean, we can't prevent people from adding repository endpoints to their instances and then getting access to another status instance somewhere else. But it really is on us to make sure that we're doing it so well that no one wants to do it. And it's worth noting also that in the history of Magento 1 and the history of Connect, which was garbage. I mean, Connect never got to the. Basically, we wanted to get it to the point. This is the way old we. This is like variant we wanted to get Connect to the point where it was more of an app store, right? But it just ended up being more or less a directory. And in the history of that time, given that state of affairs, there were several extension marketplaces that were attempted. And none of them really succeeded, and that says a lot. It's a hard thing to get right, not unlike digital commerce.
Yeah, no, it's a very high bar, and you're exactly right. I mean, I think your feedback is well taken. That 30% seems high. You're not getting the value for that 30% right now. That's as Ben said, we are in the business of trying to make marketplace.
Much more on our site than
Sure.
marketplace. Like 100, like more than a couple 100% more.
That's actually, he's going to want to talk to you about that too, because Bobbin will be very interested to hear that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also, how do you control people can copy the after they install? Because like on our site we have licenses.
Yeah.
We cannot use it in the marketplace system. So someone can buy it once, and then a company agency can use it multiple times, and they can overcome the license system, of course, but
Sure.
it's harder.
Open source, I mean, so
It's-
IonCube is one strategy, but even that is defeatable,
Yeah.
right? I mean, it's the nature of the beast. You just assume that maybe there will be, what's called shrinkage,
Yeah.
But
licenses, some licenses, products can help in reducing the usage of.
yeah, it becomes a little inconvenient, right? Because especially if it's, well, I guess for regular merchants who are just trying to install via the web installer, right? So they purchase the extension, they get the access, then they do the installation. Like they're not going to get down and dirty and SSH into a machine and and try and figure this stuff out. But for the scenario that you mentioned, that's always been a problem, and it always will be, and it's not really a problem that we can solve because it is the nature of open source, right? I mean, it's the code is there for you to work with. Except we get everyone on cloud, and then we have some control, right? Because then we can see, like, hey, they're running this, but they didn't purchase this.
And then we can apply some of the anti-fraud methods that we use on Marketplace proper when we scan extensions for plagiarism on installed extensions in our cloud. So there's hope.
Another dimension of fraud is plagiarism of extensions, right? That's a rampant problem, I'm sure you know, from Magento 1, and it had this massive deflationary pressure on swaths of extensions, and that is, we've all but defeated that with the marketplace because we are reviewing extensions. In part of that review is for plagiarism. I mean, we'll never automate that 100% away, but anyone that's caught doing that, they're gone for good. And it has happened. It's actually happened to a very large extension provider. So we took a big stance. So that is one dimension I think that we can solve and that we have solved, right? So that's good. I think it's 5:03. So if we have one more question, we could probably
Time flies.
field it really quickly. Is this a 30-minute session? It is, right?
Anything about certifications for Magento 2, or it's not?
It will happen. It will happen. So I was on the certification board for Magento 1, and what we'll be doing is a similar approach, but basically we use working knowledge of the system to help write as relevant a test as you can when it's multiple choice about programming, right? Which is not ideal, but we need a little more time and a little more experience out there in the world to know what kind of questions to ask. We also need the platform to really be stabilized, which is what we're working on for the next couple of months or so. Is that a good timeline to say a couple of months?
Yeah, I mean, well, we will always be working towards system stability. That's not going away. I think we may have lost sight of that a little bit when we were very, very deep in the throes of R&D, but we'll always have that kind of stability focus. But I think we're over-indexing on that right now to try and get just to a better place where the software is easier to use and more reliable.
And I guess we have
60 minutes.
Oh, 60 minutes. Sweet! I know you were scared, and there was this just glut of questions that were coming forth. So now that we've teased you with the end, what's the next question?
Your more difficult questions?
You, sir, in the front.
Okay. Do you have any plans to extend the cloud edition to the community edition?
So it's a great question, and it's certainly something that has come up technically. Is this something that we could extend to community? I think that we are still learning a whole lot about cloud right now. I mean, our implementations are, really just now starting to take off. So we've got Oliver Sweeney just went live recently. Awesome news there. And I think we've got a little bit of learning to do on the enterprise edition before we talk about what we can do for our community edition in the cloud space. I think there's a great solve there, and I think it does answer questions that a lot of SMBs are having to ask about. I'm coming from BigCommerce, or I'm coming from Volusion or Shopify, and I've just outgrown that platform, but I'm not quite ready to jump into. I have to pick an SI, and I have to pick extensions, and I have to kind of custom bundle everything together. So there's some bridging that needs to happen between those 2 points, and I think we'll get there. So there are no concrete plans right now for us to release a cloud edition for community, but you should know that it is something we're contemplating.
Yeah, it was mentioned, so Peter Sheldon, cloud is his baby, and he mentioned it on stage at Imagine this year, just kind of this little a tease about potentially taking that down from. It's a great price point for for enterprise merchants, but somehow figuring out how to scale that down a little bit for the smaller merchants, right? So it won't, like if you sell $10,000 a year of bubbles, it's probably not going to be a solution for you. But we do want to get it to go down. My guess, if we did though, is that it probably wouldn't be community edition. That would just be my gut. But nothing concrete right now. And it's truly something we're literally like we look at, and we're sort of seeing if it's feasible and if we can do it right, because we don't want to not that they're the same because it's PaaS versus SaaS, but we've had issues. We've had issues in the past with productizing deployments and stuff.
SaaS-like things.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna call it Magento Go-To.
Actually, that one I like it. I thought you were going to go with the Magento Gone, but Magento Go-To, I like it. We'll cut you a check if you use it.
Pie cake.
Yeah. Question from that, and by the way, if you don't feel comfortable asking your question in English, please feel free to ask it in whatever language, and hopefully someone can translate. Seriously about that. Yeah.
The Magento U was presented, and the question is how far from this moment is individual developers certifications and due to the even radical changes in the code itself. So when we'll get a more or less stable version which we could certify on.
Okay. You get the gold star for anticipating, or for understanding part of our pain, which is basically getting things more or less stable. Certainly when we're still figuring out, like we're changing our idiom of like how we do CRUD, right? It's really hard to go ahead, and it's been a challenge. Magento U have actually stepped up the whole way, because the original, the fundamentals for Magento 2, I remember I taught that beta. A few of us taught the beta, and there were massive changes, of course, because that was built on the release candidate.
I've passed that.
Yeah. So okay, perfect. So so that is part of our pain. So that's step one. Step two is again more working experience out there, actual deployments, people solving problems, training others, finding those sticking points, and that's the kind of stuff where we draw from for asking questions for certification. So. Concise answer, TLDR, is that we don't have a date for that yet. I would hope by the end of next year, but I certainly won't commit to it because it's not my department to make that commitment.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Can you share some feedback on something that absolutely sucks? That I honestly...
If you say my dancing, you're out of the community.
No, definitely not. Something that I absolutely hated when I was taking the Magento Fundamentals course.
Yeah.
Video is okay,
Yeah.
but that document, which
Yeah.
you couldn't print or you couldn't move from that computer, or couldn't put on your iPad,
Yeah.
because it was encrypted and it had this crazy format,
Yeah.
that was absolutely annoying and frustrating. Because
Yeah.
you know what? Reading on a screen's fine, but sometimes I'd like to read on my iPad on the bus.
Yeah.
I suggest that you not do that in the future.
Sure. That was one of many things of feedback that came in, including don't use text to speech for the voiceover again, which was funny because it was actually a professional voice actor. He was just very, very professional. Navigate to www/ I mean, it was really amazing. So there are concern noted, and others have also said similar things like, hey, come on, this is the modern era. Things are evolving with Magento U, so I hope that, and I would say they're evolving towards an even more open distribution of stuff, so hopefully that would be taken care of. But it's something also, if you see it still that way in like 6 months, you can yell at me.
Cool. Well, I've lost access to it now because there's a time limit on it also.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
Yeah.
There are ideological shifts around that happening.
And just so you know where I'm coming from, the opportunity to educate developers is only going to be a good thing for everybody involved, right? So you know, like if someone steals our content and distributes it on BitTorrent, and I'm just being real here, I mean, it's only going to be a good thing for Magento in the end. But yes, you're going to lose that $295.
We don't treat Magento U as a profit center. Right. It's so for us, and I believe so. This is one of the battles I have been fighting since I started teaching for Magento U back in 2011.
Right.
Which is this stuff should really be just out there and free, and it was. I mean, we did that back in 2011 mainly because for so many years we didn't have educational material, and that if nothing else could have been the thing that sunk the Magento battleship, right? Because I mean, any of you with experience that goes back any decent amount have taken over a site where you wish someone had stolen the educational materials and learned how to damn develop, right? So yeah, so your point is right on, and it is. I would say your point is even echoed already, pre-echoed internally.
Oh, pre-echoed internally. That's true.
Yeah, I'll just stop then.
Yeah, next one. The back is very quiet back there. I can't tell if you're asleep. I know it was a good party last night, but social. Yes, sir, Mr. Denver.
So, you made some references to utilizing the platform. Can you go a little bit more in depth into what's actually going on right now? It has sort of seemed like you need to add features to Magento 2 to convince people to switch to it, rather than actually making the bugs go away. And I've encountered a number of those bugs that have prevented a site launch for quite a while now.
Yep.
So I'm very interested in what's actually happening.
Yeah, and I can give you some insight into that. I mean, so essentially what we're doing now is we start to see sites coming up on M2. And, you know, we launched M2 back in November last year, and obviously there are a couple of sites live, very, you know, handheld, you know, very specific set of use cases that we're supporting there. Once it kind of gets into the wild, where you are seeing, you know, the product stood up in, you know, unconventional configs, and really, I mean, every config is unconventional in some form. But you start to catch some of these edge cases. Some of them really aren't edge cases. There are things that probably should have been rolled into our core testing. So we're doing a lot of different things internally. I'll tell you, you know, primarily right now we're working on fixing the issues that are causing customers to either have to push back their deployments or spend more money on those deployments. So we're focused primarily on getting those issues resolved in a final state. Right? This is not a patching or a Band-Aid activity. It's very much a, you know, let's figure out why these things are manifesting and what can we do to make them better. In addition, we're looking at, you know, our API coverage and getting consistent application of our API methodology across the board. I don't know if you had a chance to see Anton Krell's statement, but a lot of what he is talking about are the exact vision that we want to go lay into this. The other thing we're doing is investing heavily in test automation, and that's not unit test automation. That is, you know, kind of a full suite of what I would call probably vastly more robust than what we've run before, and far more comprehensive. So, you know, now we have cloud config as a first-class citizen. We are now starting to define the other 3 or 4 configs that we're going to use as our primary test bed. So we can, you know, publish that out to the community. You guys will know what we're testing against and why. If there's something that we're missing that we need to add to the stack, we'll get that feedback and be able to incorporate it. So we've made some pretty significant hires on the quality front that that I have seen do phenomenal work in terms of getting automation and you know, really pure test coverage, right? I mean, it's looking at unit test, it's looking at code complexity, it's looking at integration test, it's you know, and going through full functional automation as well. So we're making a huge investment there. That doesn't pay dividends immediately, right? It doesn't help me fix the bugs that we have out there today. So that's an investment for the future, but we are investing heavily in it. And at the same time, we're, you know, spending a good portion of our time looking at, and I'd say one other thing that we're spending some time on is front-end consistency. So you saw Anton's deal about MVC, and even our implementation of MVC varies across some parts of our system. So getting that piece squared away, and then just coming across with a very rational approach to architecture. I think that's the one thing that you'll see start to change as we get more transparent, and as some of that vision that Anton was talking about comes to life, is that things start to make sense. And you can start to clearly understand why we chose a particular direction over another particular direction, rather than saying, this just doesn't make sense and I don't have any way to find out more about it. So the stabilization is really, it's about getting the launch blockers all cleared up. And there are a handful. Some of them are pretty interesting and have given us a lot of insight into how we could do things better. So we're diving in. We're a learning organization, and this is something that I think is very important, that we have an appetite for these issues. I want our developers, and personally I want to know how some of the coding challenges that we've experienced are impacting your deployments, because one thing we don't want to see ever happen at Magento is that our implementation costs go up because we have code quality issues, that we lose the reliability that we're known for. There's some question about the integrity of Magento overall. That's something that I don't ever want us to have to flirt with. So we're taking a pretty hard line right now to make sure that we get this right.
Yeah.
That answer?
And sort of being outside of Jason's organization, but obviously dealing with engineers regularly, I can say that I see that. I can also say when you've got a Ukrainian engineer in front of you and he uses the word interesting, it's like the scariest thing I ever hear come out of our engineering.
It is pretty terrifying.
It's an interesting problem. Yeah, we have. What's the time? We've got like 10 minutes. Yes, in the back.
What will you do along the time when the Magento will evolve? Because as I was hearing the output plan regarding the architecture changes, there will be some huge steps ahead. And what will you do with the extensions which are already in the marketplace? Would you review them during this time? Because at some time they could be incompatible. Of course, from the developer perspective, they should update it because Magento will return them. But will we do something with them if they won't update them?
So it's a great question, and I appreciate that you brought it up. It is really difficult for us to understand what is a breaking change when we make a software decision on M2. And that is because we don't have APIs everywhere, right? And there are a lot of extensions that have to go take advantage of native classes in order to become an effective extension, right? In order to get the job done. One of the things that we're doing is, and again, this goes back to us trying to become more transparent, is we're looking at publishing a tool that will allow you to kind of scan your extension and determine whether there's a risk for a breaking change on a given release candidate. Now, you've seen us, we did I think a release candidate for 2.1 about a month before dropping. That's pretty tight time frame for us to expect that extension developers can have enough opportunity to go and make any adjustments that they may need to make. So we're trying to get that out to a much larger window. But again, as we start going forward with this transparency, you should be able to see what areas of the software we're going to be making changes to and what those changes are likely to look like well ahead of us actually publishing the patch. So, I'd say it's not perfect. As we get to better API coverage, we will certainly version it, and that gives us a whole lot of flexibility as we move forward. If we need to iterate the core software stack, I can continue to support an API version, 1 or 2 back. We haven't made any firm decisions on how we're going to do that yet, but I do expect that we will absolutely version our API. And in the near term, when we're actually still building out those APIs that may cause breaking changes to extensions, we'll try and get as much in front of you guys as we can, be as public about our changes as we possibly can be, to try and give you some insight as to how that's going to look.
Yeah, and of course one of the part of our strategy there is the separate versioning for the marketing version, the 2 point whatever, and then the platform version underneath, the 100, 101, that follows semantic versioning kind of, mostly. working on that story as well. And then another thing that we've noticed actually is how we can get people, how we can better help extension vendors understand their how they should be versioning and build and sort of codifying their dependencies, right? You know, should I depend on the meta package or version, or should I be versioning against individual module versions? That can be that's a nuanced thing, but it does apply. So that is one low level strategy. I mean, it's not it doesn't solve the business challenges of, like, you know, having to update your extension because we decided to have a breaking change, but you know, we do pay attention to breaking changes. I mean, and for now, anything marked with API is you're safe. That's
just
one
aren't enough of them.
There just aren't enough of them. That's the problem. But yeah, it's a good question.
In 5 minutes, we'll start the last session, which will be a closing session.
Okay.
So just please keep that in mind.
We will. We'll just be like about 10 more minutes.
Okay, perfect.
Mr. Deppner, I guess we'll probably make this the last one.
So, could we expect to see a more fleshed out API, like version 2, soon? Maybe Magento 2.2?
So you will start to see better APIs in Magento 2.2, right? And I'm not the guy that determines when 2.2 goes out the door, right? And frankly, the public versioning, the marketing versioning means less to me than the semantic versioning that we have not done a great job honoring, but we're working towards. So, you know, from my perspective, when we're going to launch something with a significant number of breaking changes, and 2.2 is likely to have that, right? If we're going through this kind of stabilization and coverage effort, there are likely to be places where there's going to be changes. My commitment will be I'll get the code out there as early as I can to this community and let you guys pick it apart. I'll make my architects and my engineers available to you know, help understand why we did these things and what direction we're going. And I'll try and paint a better picture of where we're heading with 2.3 as we do that.
Cool. Well, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, really, actually, to Jason for being here. This was a much more valuable session with his input and ability to talk about, you know, not just make stuff up like I do. So thank you all for being here. Kuba, thanks for all this stuff. And I guess it's time for
The closing
the
ceremony.
closing. Sweet goodbye. Until next year. So thanks a lot.
All right, thanks guys.
Thank you for coming.